Shalom, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Yoav, and wanted to welcome you to the Home to Eden International Torah Family YouTube channel. So to kick things off, my wife Sarah and I wanted to each do a video sharing a bit about our own personal stories, where we come from, and then we'll do a video together, kind of like how our journey progressed after we met in college. But I wanted to start this off in this way with my own personal story, because it's really important, I feel, for all of you to really understand where we're coming from. And hopefully, as you hear my story, Sarah's story, you'll be able to really connect with many of the same things that we've gone through. And we know that a journey of learning more about the truth of Torah, delving into the Hebrew scriptures, delving into the history, and really seeking a true, correct Jewish biblical understanding of these things can be very difficult for those that did not grow up in a Torah-observant Jewish home. And so maybe like me, you come from a Christian background, maybe you come from a secular background, or from a different religion, and you just are really discovering the truths of Torah, and you're on this journey. But sometimes the journey can be very difficult and have many road bumps along the way. So to kick things off, I'll just share with you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a rural town in the northeastern part of the United States. I grew up on a horse farm, actually, and one of my earliest memories is like when one of our horses gave birth. It was really special. And we also would have vegetable gardens and everything. So from an early age, thank God, my parents really taught us the importance of hard work and discipline being on the farm. And it was being in the Northeast. Also, you had the challenge of the winter, which felt like it lasted for half the year. I remember we'd have to go out and chip the ice for our horses' water buckets during the winter months. But yeah, so that's sort of the environment that I grew up in. And my parents were and still are very involved in the evangelical Christian world. My parents would go out preaching the gospel to different people when they were teenagers and when they were first married. And so by the time my brothers and sisters and I came along, my parents were very involved in like the Sunday school at church, the music ministry and everything. So that was my whole world, growing up at the farm and going to church with my family. And, we would memorize Bible verses and spend a lot of time reading the Bible stories, sometimes a bit of time in what Christians call the Old Testament, but most of my time was spent studying the New Testament, the stories about Jesus and his apostles and Paul and everything. And I was really, as I got a bit older into my teenage years, I got really involved in it. I was fully into that world. And so much so, when I was in high school, I made plans to go to a Christian college. And it was something, though, that there were these questions in the back of my mind that were really big questions. And I just couldn't shake them, but I'm sure many of you might be able to relate to this. If you grow up in the church, or if you're involved in Christianity for a while, there's a lot of fear that motivates the questions you ask and the things that you study, the things that you see. I have this very vivid memory of one day, my dad was talking about some Bible verses, and I was sitting on the couch, and he was over at the table, and I can still to this day picture it. He was talking about the sacrifice of Jesus, and how in the New Testament it talks about he was crucified on the cross, and he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it's like, wow, what an amazing thing my dad was saying, that he did this made this huge sacrifice for us. And I remember very clearly having this thought in my mind. It's like, wait a minute, I've been taught my whole life that you have to believe Jesus is God in order to go to heaven. But I've never really thought about it before. Right here on the cross, he's supposedly saying, my God, quoting from a psalm, why have you forsaken me? And if he's calling the Father his God, how can God have a God? But immediately, this is crazy, like immediately I had this thought that's like, well, you can't ask this question. You can't, because if you ask this question, if you go down this road, you're going to be branded a heretic. You're going to be, your salvation is going to be questioned. You could possibly be putting yourself on the path to hell. And again, fear was what really gripped me throughout my early, through my childhood, into my teenage years, going into college. But at the same time, I felt that it's like, this was the world I knew. And you don't really see that fear, how it factors into your life and your decisions and the way you look at your faith. And so I was on this path. Like my family, they all thought that I was going to become a pastor. I went to Gordon College in Wenham, Massachusetts, to doing a Bible studies program. Took some youth ministry classes, Bible study classes. I was going to go on to do my studies, be a pastor. I had everything mapped out for me. But then while I was there in the Boston area, I visited a synagogue for the first time. Now, growing up in the evangelical Christian world, again, many of you might be able to relate to this. They were very pro-Israel, but anti-Judaism, anti-Jewish faith. I was taught that Jews didn't study the Bible, that Orthodox Jews especially didn't study the Bible. They only studied the Talmud. I didn't even really understand what the Talmud was. I just thought it was these books made up by the rabbis and who were always pictured in a very bad light, like the Pharisees are in the Christian New Testament. So I had this whole picture in my mind about who religious Jews were, or Orthodox Jews were, that they didn't have a relationship with God. They didn't study the Bible. They were just blindly following what their leaders told them. And so for the first time, though, when I was in college, I went to an Orthodox synagogue. I remember it was in Swampscott, Massachusetts. And it was the very first time I ever saw a Torah scroll. And the Torah scroll, for those of you who don't know, it's written in the original Hebrew, the first 5 books of the Bible, the books that God dictated to Moses. He had Moses write down and has been passed down from generation to generation. And I heard it wasn't, and when Jews read the Torah scroll, they do it 3 times a week, but they do the longest reading on Shabbat, on Saturday. And hearing the Torah, the original Hebrew of the Bible being sung, they don't just blandly read it. There's a whole trope, it's called, notes of the way that the words, these beautiful words from God, are sung in the original Hebrew. And the very first time I heard that at the synagogue, it woke something up inside of me. And I realized that, wait a minute, what I was taught is wrong. It's a lie. Here they are. Everyone is hearing the words of the Bible in its original language, and they understand it, and I don't. So how can I say that I've got the truth and they don't? That I'm the one with all the answers and they don't have it? Now, and it really set me on this journey to. I spent the last. That was like my sophomore or junior year of college, and so the last 2 years of college, I spent a lot of as much of my extra time as I could, really going to the library, finding Jewish encyclopedias, finding history books, studying more about the history of Christianity. and the development of Christian doctrines, why certain books were chosen to be in the canon of the Christian Bible, and how the Jewish people and their faith developed over the centuries. And I just tell you what, like, God just really blew my mind in so many ways. And I don't want to make this video super long, but just suffice it to say that God opened my heart in a way that I had never thought was possible. And that really sparked this amazing journey of asking questions and eventually leaving the doctrines of Christianity, realizing that no, a man cannot be God. God specifically says that he is alone and there's no one beside him. And the mental gymnastics I used to do in order to excuse doctrines like the Trinity and stuff in Christianity and vicarious atonement and my misunderstanding of Passover, what the whole holiday of Passover and the Passover lamb or goat really was all about, then I just can't put it into words, just like the amazing beauty that God like started to open up in my heart of really seeing the truth and glory of his word, of his Torah. That's what the psalmist David talks about. It's like, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. I learned that Torah, it means instruction, and it's or in Hebrew means light. And so it's embedded in the word Torah, so that the Torah literally lights up our path. God's word, the Hebrew scriptures light up our path, and that is our foundation, and everything we believe comes from that. And so that's a bit about the background of my story. I'm gonna do another video with Sarah about like how we met in college and where we went from there. But I just want to tell you all that whatever part of the journey you're on, that Sarah and I, we are so happy that you've found our channel, and we really hope that this will be a great stepping stone for us to connect, for us to continue to learn and grow together and create this international family of people that have gone on journeys like this and make something really beautiful so we can all grow together. Thank you again for joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take care, and may Hashem bless you with Shalom. Bye-bye.